Yes, he.
I was gonna fix it right now, so maybe 15 minutes. What do you think? Is it? Why is it getting so dark? Is it cloudy out?
Yeah.
I got some more peaches. Passed a peach stand on the way
Oh, where?
to, well, these are ripe. The ones that I just got today are not. I did make one last peach blueberry. You might be putting away that color. Please, that out. So I got you these as a wheel stitch. Thank you. Because they're more organic than these. Can't wait to see Coach Cannon, Coach Monty throw down with Mr. Powell.
Just tell me how to go.
called community engagement group. You guys good? Hate about this thing.
I'm so glad students are here. Ready, Liz?
Sure. Is it starting with me? Oh, okay.
Absolutely.
Can everybody hear me or should I get a mic?
You're good.
Can you hear me? Okay. I'll introduce myself and our organization. My name is Liz Stolniker. I'm a Central Park resident, and I'm the board president for Central Park United Neighbors. I've got a couple of quick introductory slides, and I apologize for my back too. But just to let both our candidates and our guests know a little bit about our group, Central Park United Neighbors is the registered neighborhood organization, or RNO, for the Central Park. We provide a working forum for the residents of Central Park to participate in creating, developing, and fostering a vibrant urban community dedicated to social equity, environmental responsibility, and economic opportunity. At our monthly meetings, we facilitate discussion of key issues with neighbors. So a candidate forum like this is definitely part of the communication that we want to have with elected candidates and the community. And we also engage in proactive problem prevention and amicable problem solving.
Here's the forecast for
CPUN is committed to providing an inclusive and welcoming environment for all members of our community. Our mission is the betterment of the city of Denver by providing a forum for the residents living in Central Park to discuss and resolve issues, a network of communication. Somebody can mute that person. A means of acting on matters of importance to the community as a whole. And we promote public service, civic discourse, collective efficacy, and we are an all-volunteer board of Central Park residents. How many folks in the audience are Central Park residents? All right. How many folks, this is the first CPUN event you've been to? All right. Well, if this is the first or one of the few, please come see me if you're interested in getting involved. It is great to see this room of folks. And I am happy to talk your ear off after the forum about how to get involved. And without further ado, I will let the moderators and organizers take this away. Just a big thanks to our education committee and education committee chair, Carol Hunter, who organized this forum, and all of the here without all of the work that you and all of the moderators and volunteers do. What?
We had some great volunteers here.
It's great. Well, we'll
Yeah.
acknowledge them as well.
I will.
All right, take it away.
Okay. Hi, I'm Carol Hunter, and I am on the board of CPUN. And our regular monthly board meetings have various facets to the agenda. This month, as you can see, we're devoting the time exclusively to learning more about our DPS board candidates for District 4 and the at-large positions. I really appreciate you attending this forum, everybody in the room, and then all the folks who are on Zoom as well. So thank you again for being here. I'm eager to learn more about the individuals who are competing for these positions and their ideas regarding policy and leadership on behalf of our students, school staff, and all of us really. So thank you also to the CPUN board members for your contributions. And of course, thank you to the candidates for their commitment to public service and support of our students, families, and school staff. We really appreciate the stamina and the willingness to learn and the perseverance it takes for you to pursue this endeavor. And before we start with the questions and the agenda, we want to just share with you a few rules of the road so that you do. So Tommy, and this is Tommy Phillips, and he's also a board member.
So for the candidates, please keep the time limits, as follows. We have 2 minutes for opening remarks, 1 minute to respond to each question, and then 1 minute as well for the closing remarks. There will also be a lightning round whereby candidates will or will not raise their hands in response to a statement. Questions tonight were formulated by reviewing responses from our annual Central Park Neighborhood Survey, current challenges and issues faced by the Board of Education, and submissions from our neighbors. Finally, audience members, if you would please hold your applause until the end of the forum and show respect for all of the candidates. Please refrain from side conversations as well, as the ceilings are mic'd. And we won't be taking questions from the audience. However, there will be time for the candidates and audience members to talk at the end.
Our timekeeper tonight is John Parrish, a member of the board right here in front of us, and he's going to keep everybody in line, I'm sure. And our moderators tonight are David Kugler, who's also a board member, and Shalice, who's on some CPUN committees, Shalice Hutley-Harris, and Hannah Parrish. And so, Shalice, why don't you start by introducing yourself and take it away.
Well, thank you for attending tonight. We appreciate you all. So my name is Shalice Hutley-Harris. I've been a proud member of this community since 2018. I'm an active member of and the DEI committee, where I work alongside others to support inclusive opportunities and help strengthen our community for all.
My name is David Kugler. I am the son of teachers. I am the secretary for Central Park United Neighbors. I'm a small business owner in the neighborhood, and I'm the co-host of the Call Me Limbo podcast. Thank you for being here.
And I am Hannah Parrish, and I'm currently a freshman at Denver School.
All right, let's get started. Thank you all for being here. We will start with opening statements. Each candidate has 2 minutes to make an opening statement. We were going to start with Jeremy Harris, work our way down. Go for it.
Thank you, and thank you all for having this event and inviting all of us to participate. My name is Jeremy Harris. I am a DPS parent and husband. I serve as the Chief Executive Officer for the Harris Funeral Directors. I also volunteer my time as the Communications Chair for the Swagger International School, where my son attends. I also volunteer with the Partners in Literacy nonprofit, where we go out and read to the less fortunate kids throughout District 4 from grades K through 3. I am also a Central Park resident. I'm running for the school board because, like many of you all in here tonight, we have simply lost trust in our school board and in our superintendent. We know that our school board is not being accountable or transparent when it comes to governing our district. I believe that it is time for us to prioritize our academics, make sure that all students feel safe and welcome and belong when they come to school, and also make sure that our schools are safe. And safety goes hand in hand with discipline. We hear the word equity a lot, but we have not seen it shown up in Denver public schools. Right now, DPS has one of the highest achievement gaps in the state. I think I lost my, okay, I'm sorry. DPS has one of the highest achievement gaps in the state, almost a 50-point difference between Black and brown kids and their white counterparts. That is not equity and that is not justice. I'm running to intervene in the systems that have historically failed our Black and brown kids. And I want to be clear that these systems, they're not broken, but they are working as designed. And it's time for us as a community to co-create design and solutions to make sure that every child has access to a high quality education. Thank you.
Hello, my name is on. Can you guys hear me? Sort of. Hello, my name is Monica Hunter. I got my start in teaching in Central Park at Willow Elementary. I was a classroom teacher, and I have kids in the district. I was born in Denver, Colorado, in Denver. And as one of the only candidates born in Denver, I got to witness the effects of school closures in a board backed by billionaire PACs and reform. And I witnessed the devastation of closing schools in neighborhoods. I'm proud to have earned the endorsement of teachers, psychologists, nurses, and para through the endorsements of the Denver Classroom Teachers Association and AFT. They know that I will fight for them as I have in all of my career. When I was a teacher, I represented teachers as the building rep and fought to ensure that every school, whether it was innovation or district run, that teachers could have access to collective bargaining and access to their the full contract, full collective bargaining contract. I am backed by everyday working families because I am committed to having hard conversations around school safety, including mental health. I am committed to fighting for funding and the protection and ensuring that, oh, I don't know, I'm nervous, I'm sorry. And ensuring that every student has what they need. In my work, I work for CEA, the largest union in the state, and in its 150 years, I opened their human and civil rights, and I serve as the first director for human and civil rights. Thank you all for your time.
Good evening. Thank you guys so much for being here. I'm Samaya Jackson, and I'm running for the Denver Public School Board of Education to represent District 4. As you guys know, Central Park is considered to be one of the anchor neighborhoods that makes up District 4. I come to this work as a DPS parent, a community educator, and a former executive director who believes that every student in our district deserves access to a high-quality education that's going to prepare them academically, socially, and emotionally for the future they wish to have. I've been fortunate in my career to work with young people both in and out of the classroom in a variety of different roles. That include dean of students, director of student services, and I now serve as a youth violence prevention administrator for the city of Jordan. The one thing that has remained consistent in all of the roles that I've been fortunate to have is that too many of our students lack a sense of belonging. And our students are left wondering, what is the reason for this? We need strong leadership at the board level who is going to work alongside community to uplift the voices and the needs of each and every one of our students. And we do that in 3 ways. Through achievement, making sure that we're clear on what we want our kids to know when they leave our care. Through transparency, ensuring that we are having radical conversations at every level of the district that will be designed to make sure that we know where we are and where we're going. And last but not least, accountability. This is something that needs to take place in every level of our district. When things are not going well, we have to own up to that. And when they are, we celebrate. That is the commitment and the work that I have done as a systems leader, and I look forward to bringing that to our board to ensure that every kid gets what they deserve and is kept at the center of every decision.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Michelle Baldwin. I am your proud representative for District 4. First, I want to begin by thanking each of you, our Denver voters, for your trust. It's in voting for the bond, and as a result of that, Denver Public Schools, within 3 years, every school will have air conditioning, among other things. I first wanted to thank you for that, for instilling that trust in the board in Denver Public Schools. I am a mother. I'm a proud mother of 3 amazing individuals. They're all graduates of Denver Public Schools, as am I, as am my husband. I am a native of Denver. I have only lived in District 4, from Whittier all the way to Green Valley Ranch. I understand the historical content of District 4. With that, title that I'm most proud of is being a mother. I know what it's like to raise children through Denver Public Schools. I have a lawyer, I have an educator, and I have a therapist. Our children do succeed in Denver Public Schools. On my time at the board, teachers have received over 30% pay increase. Mental health is a common topic that we frequently discuss. I am advocating and fighting to raise the minimum wage from $22 to $27. I fought for it to be raised from $15 to $20. There's still more work to be done when the fight has to be taken to preserve public education. I'm there, and that's why I'm asking for your support and your vote.
Thank you, everyone. I'm a Central Park resident, been here from the very beginning, so it's just crazy how much this has all expanded, because I'm over there right off of 29th. But my name is Alex Magana, and I am the, running for the DPS board at large. And I'm bringing in 25 years of experience where I've dedicated my career to serving kids in Denver. I've served as a teacher, I've served as an assistant principal, I've served as a principal, I've even served as executive director where we were asked by families to replicate our schools. So I've had high success rate, and I'm also a proud DPS parent, where my kids went through from EC through 12. I share with that of what our educators struggle with and their hopes and what they struggle with and what our parents want for their kids and the struggles that they have as well. I also see the inequities in our system because I'm currently a principal at an executive principal over the two schools, still doing the work and advocating, for my kid or, our students. And this is what this campaign is all about. I believe that we need to create safe, welcoming environments where all of our kids thrive academically. We also need to ensure that we are doing the right thing by putting our students first. Now, I'm running because DPS is in crisis. We do have high teacher burnout. We do have low academic outcomes for several groups students. Yes, there are celebrations, but there's things that we need to dig deep and take a look at. That's the work I've been doing as a principal. And what I bring to the board is this is my belief. And it's funny, I want to say that we have an administration that's attacking public education. Over my 25 years, I've had a high success rate of working in the most challenged schools and turning around, creating unique models, and I didn't do that alone. I did it with our families, I did it with our teachers, and I'm proud of the accomplishments. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you all so much for being here and taking the time to care about DPS. I am Amy Kleinwolf, and I am running for the at-large seat. I am the proud mom of 2 DPS kids, a special education paraprofessional, and an education technology leader. I have over 2 decades of experience working as an advocate in education, from supporting at-risk youth, working side by side with teachers, and building innovative technology to solve really big problems. I joined this race because I believe that education is the last great equalizer, but that promise is slipping away. Teachers are burning out, families are losing trust, and far too many students do not feel safe or prepared for their future. My plan is simple. We need strong neighborhood schools in every community. We need to support our teachers with fair pay, smaller class sizes, and real resources. And finally, we need to create schools that are safe and future ready so that our kids feel protected and prepared for the future. For decades, DPS has followed a privatization playbook of closures, competition, and privatization, a reformer playbook that I do not agree with. We need to fight against it, or our current administration will win. I am a person who solves big problems, who builds coalitions, and who finds resources where others see scarcity. And that is the leadership that I will bring to the board. I am proud to be supported by Denver Classroom Teachers Association. If I am to be elected, I will work tirelessly to support our educators to ensure that every student deserves and they do deserve, and that they also receive the absolute best education possible. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Deborah Samsarar. I am running for the school board at large seat. You could have chosen to be individual, as do I. I believe that public education is the equalizer of systemic inequalities in marginalized communities.
I am a product of DPS. My children are a product of DPS. I've done all the schools. I've done private, I've done charter, I've done innovation, I've done them all. My family, so I know a little bit about that. But most importantly, I'm a teacher. I've been in DPS for 30 years. I have seen Swain under the leadership of at least 6 superintendents. So I know a little bit about what needs to happen in a classroom. My platform is simple. 1, safety. We all know that learning does not happen if classrooms are not safe. Number 2, teacher supports. I'm in a classroom every day. I'm not telling you what I did some time ago. I'm telling you where I'm gonna be tomorrow. I'm gonna be in a classroom, and I want that classroom to be safe. And I want the adequate supports that teachers need. I need to see, and we should be able to see policies that are rooted in equity, inclusion, and diversity. That is how we get all children to have the optimal learning opportunities that they deserve. Deborah Farrar, running for school. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. The next set of questions, each candidate will have 1 minute to respond to each one of them. Our first question is about community engagement, and we will begin with Ms. Sims Farrar.
Okay.
So how do you plan to engage with community stakeholders when developing or revising policies? And how will you make efforts to engage all of the communities within your district so that families feel more heard and valued? The question is also on the behind you.
So how do you plan to engage? Well, I'm just gonna share with you what I do now. I believe that in order for children to have optimal learning opportunities, that community must be a part of that. It takes 3 entities to exist. 1, parents and their commitment to their children and their schools. Community, because that is where a wealth of information take place and resources. And 3, teachers. Teachers need opportunity to plan adequately for the information that they're presenting. And so as it relates to the question, I think that we continue to build relationship with our community. I bring in community into my classroom every week, twice a week, to support in learning opportunities. I think as a board member, what needs to happen is we just need to reach out and build partnerships.
My whole career, and even before that, as a child, I have been bringing communities together. I believe that it is the fabric of our society and what makes us great. And I know that when we go to our stakeholders, to our communities, to our parents, to our families, so often they can articulate the struggles that they are facing. They can articulate what is working for their kids. And sometimes they just need a little support in figuring out how do we create policy that represents what they truly want and need for their families. And so that is what I will do. I will work hand in hand with each and every one of you to make sure that we are building policy that reflects your values, that reflects the unique needs of your children, and that makes our school system strong.
I'm proud to say that this is the work that I've been doing the past 25 years. So I'm gonna go a little bit, I'm gonna focus on one. When I walked into a school that was the lowest performing school in the district in Plattsburgh. And at that point, I worked with families that came to me and said, how do we get more kids? What do we do here for our school? And what we did is we went to the farmer's market, signed 300, got 300 surveys. We mailed people to send out the information. We talked to individuals about it. Most importantly, we created a plan. It wasn't done to us. We created the plan and we were able to move things forward. So it is about sitting at the table and allowing families to bring food to the table. It's not just having a seat at the table. And hearing their input and creating that vision for our kids. Because as long I'm driven by families and students, you'll always hear me say that. What is in the best interest of them? And we'll always find that common ground, because that's what families want for their kids at home.
This is a great question, and I want to begin by referencing our GP15 policy that I authored that mandates that our board members are actually out in the community. As many of you sitting here tonight know that I came by to do what? Not to ask for your vote, but to do the work that a board member is supposed to do. I am informing you that we are actively in the process of holding community meetings so that the community voice is represented in the direction of the district. When we began, when it was brought to the board to redraft our INS policy, I stood up and said, I will not do it unless the community voice is represented. So I show up where I'm invited. Sometimes I just show up. And I take every opportunity to engage the community and ask you what you think, what you need.
If you're not on the table, that means that you're on the menu. As a community leader, I show up, I listen. That's the first step, is listening deeply. I believe that all of the solutions that we need to right-size this district are already in community. We have to have leadership on this board that is willing to work alongside community to understand what those solutions are, to put strong policies into place, to be clear about how we're going to get there, to have the monitoring tools in place to ensure that are we making progress? And if we're not, we adjust accordingly to ensure that resources go to where they are needed. That is real community engagement, not continuing to do things, and then when your hand gets caught in the cookie jar, you say, oops, my bad. We have to make sure that we're asking the questions from the start, that we're creating and welcoming all voices to the table.
As the Director of Human and Civil Rights for Colorado Education Association, my primary role is connecting educators to community groups and bridging the gap for mental health, housing, and other issues that are important across Colorado. I will continue that work if elected to the board. We have to ensure that parents and guardians feel welcome in schools and that we're providing welcome and safe events and opportunities for members of the community and parents to engage in. And we have to be willing to hear from everyone, whether we agree with their opinions or not. My goal is to be able to work with communities, to do building visits, because I do those now as part of my role. And that's where I learn what's going on in schools, what's going on with students, and how well the school is functioning.
Currently now, I serve as the communications chair for the Swagger International Elementary School. And community engagement is so important, but it starts by listening to families. One thing that I would like to do is, if elected, is to create a parent council throughout District 4, where we can have representation from all of the schools throughout our district. And when we have situations around school closures or policies, we can then go to our parent council to get feedback from them, to tell me as their director which direction that they want us to go on this situation. Many times, many of these policies and decisions are being done to families rather than with them and co-creating solutions with the community. So it's so important that we are listening to our parents in our communities. Thank you.
Can everyone? So our next question is surrounding safety in school.
Our community survey results identified many concerns around school safety on many levels ranging from safe transportation to and from school, bullying, building security, and weapons. What role will you advocate for the board to take on improving these issues?
Safety is something that is core to the success of all of our students. If we are not safe, we are not able to learn. It is extremely serious. We must invest in helping our students by offering supports, mental health supports. We must have counselors, psychologists, different mentors in buildings that can help kids identify and experience what they are feeling and help us do early intervention. We have to have trauma-informed staff, and we have to have staff that are able to step in and help and identify before a problem arises. So many people in the community have talked to me about their support of SROs, and I do think there is a place for SROs when they are part of the community and they are not their police. That must stop. They must be there as a safeguard for the absolute worst case scenario, and we have to hope that that never happens because we've done the hard work before we got to that point.
Thanks, thank you for the question. One is, I want to, as an educator, I want to take a step back. What do you learn for the 80% of the kids that are, wow. So that's one of the questions I have is how do we ensure that we are also recognizing the positive? And then what is the infrastructure that we're going to create for the, to ensure the safety in our schools? And when I say infrastructure, the buildings, the entries, the lanyards, the SRO partnerships, CSOs, having them trained, teacher training, having that in place. But then building the resources, extending on the partnerships. Safe to Tell is an incredible resource that is used, but we need to use it more because you want kids to advocate for their safety. They're the ones seeing it and experiencing it, set that as an expectation. And also other resources, the mental health supports, ongoing mental health supports, ensuring that we are checking in with the students that need the most help. And there are kids that need additional help. Let's make sure that we provide them right.
Thank you. So here's one of the things that I've done. And a couple years ago, different public schools went through a safety assessment for all of our school buildings. That came from me. That recommendation came from me. The reason that recommendation came from me is because I was doing school visits and spoke with a cohort of school leaders in District 4 and found out that there was a free resource that this could happen. But I challenged the superintendent to take it a step further and do a full diagnosis on all of assessment on all of our schools. So for the physical safety, some of the changes that you're seeing happening in our schools is a result of that. And again, I want to thank the different voters from Bond for allowing us to implement these safety measures in our schools.
As you find this prevention admin for the city of Aurora, this is the work that I get paid to do day in, day out. And also working in partnership with the city of Aurora as well too. When it comes to safety, it's not a one-size-fits-all solution. We need to create coalitions of our stakeholders, which include our students and our building leaders, as well as DPS, safety and security teams, to understand what are the needs of our. Having that information then be shared with the board so that we can deploy the resources that are necessary to ensure that our kids are safe. But not when I'm talking about safety, I'm not just talking about the physical aspect, but I'm talking about social and emotional well-being as well. That we are putting the mental health supports and resources in place to ensure that when every kid walks through the door, they know that their learning process can begin because they're not fearful of what could happen.
Currently, I run the mental health of the Colorado Education Association, and my program supports our 40,000 members. What we've noticed is since COVID, that mental health has declined, not only in students, but in teachers as well. We have to first start by destigmatizing mental health, and we have to ensure that schools have the resources to serve students. These schools are operating without full-time nurses, psychologists, and therapists, and many of those jobs are contracted out. And the teachers, the psychologists that I've talked to are burnt out. We need to make sure that we are doing proactive work in our classrooms so that every kid feels like they belong.
Safety and discipline goes hand in hand. Talking to a lot of teachers across the district, they don't feel supported by their current administration in their school around discipline. So we first have to make sure that our classrooms are safe and disciplined. That starts with creating a district-wide safety measures. So we know exactly the expectation and the consequences that happens across the district. We have to make sure that our teachers are supported, and when they have a disruptive child in their classroom, they are supported by these discipline measures. Also around safety, I do believe in our school resource officers, but we do have to reimagine and make sure that they are well trained, not to intervene into discipline, but they are there for major threats that could happen to our schools. I am also for metal detectors in some of our schools, or even some policies as simple as backpack checks. Thank you.
Hold your applause.
I appreciate this question as someone who's currently in the classroom. And there are times that I have not felt safe. There are times where I've needed supports and couldn't get them. So the number one thing that I would do as board members is make sure that teachers have the adequate training and supports necessary for educating today's children. We're in a different time, and children are coming to us with different needs. We need to be able to meet those needs. In addition to that, we've got to build responsibility with our parents. We have got to pull in our parents and build relationship with them so we can better support what those needs are that they may have. And then as a bullying prevention specialist for many years, bullying prevention.
Thank you. Our next question is about student achievement and educational quality. We'll begin with Mr. McGonigan. In your opinion, what are the top causes for the opportunity and achievement gaps in DPS, and what will you do to close these gaps?
Once again, this is the work that I've been doing about focusing on closing the achievement gap. One of the things is that we need to ensure that our educators are well trained, providing robust lessons that meets the needs of all the students. We also need to ensure that as we're monitoring and tests, we're also taking across the board with other resources. Finally, I'll also say when we have too many gaps in our education, especially right now with our Black and brown students, we're at third grade, we have only about 35% of students that are reading at grade level, while we have white students that are reading at a much higher grade level. Therefore, what are we doing in that point? What we should be doing is providing additional resources and training so that all kids are growing, closing that gap right at the very beginning.
Thank you for the question. So we are closing gaps in Denver Public Schools. As many of you have heard, we're in the district. While I celebrate the efforts that our educators are putting in and the achievement that our students are having, I want to say that it's not good enough. And I understand that. Which is why we are investing in high quality education curriculum. We have had an overhaul of the curriculum in Denver Public Schools because we understand that it is not just about the lesson planning. It is also about making sure that our educators are able to implement the material so that they are creating learning environments, not teaching to our children, but we are creating learning environments. And that is why we're seeing the gains that we're seeing.
When we talk about achievement for students, it's really about understanding where we currently are. We know that we have seen a lot of some progress with our students, but that progress is not good enough. When we talk about achievement, we also must be talking about growth as well too. What that means is that when our kids leave our care, they are reading on grade level and they're able to do math and they're prepared for whatever that next step is gonna look like. We as a board have to ensure that we are deploying the resources to our most neediest environments, but also we are also providing resources for our GT students, our gifted and talented students as well. Making sure that our teachers are prepared to be able to teach all students in their classroom, because that is true equity, and that's also called flexible learning, and that is something that we have to make sure that we're investing in as
As a former teacher and early childhood teacher, reading was always my absolute priority. But depending on what school you work at, you may not be teaching the science of reading, basic phonics lessons. We have to ensure that there's uniformity across the district and that every kid is getting the science of reading at an early age. I love my kids' schools, but even I've had to supplement their learning with tutors, which you should not have to in a public school. And so this conversation is also a conversation about funding, because we can talk about after-school programs that are needed, the curriculums that are needed, but if we don't have the funding to do those things can't be achieved. And my goal is to ensure that we are also lobbying for funding for those things and working with board and working at the Capitol to ensure that we get funding to close those gaps.
DPS is celebrating Mean Green. The thing about it is, once you disaggregate that data, you would see that there are major inequities in achievement gap between our Black and brown kids. So what we have to do is it starts with early childhood. We have to make sure that these kids are starting school before kindergarten. Because if kids are starting school in kindergarten, they have already started behind. We have to make sure that we are using the science of reading in those early grades, prioritizing literacy for our kids, giving them the interventionists and wraparound services that they would need before and after school, as well as being proficient in math. It starts with getting them more interventionists and paraprofessionals in our classrooms to help close that achievement gap. We also have to get our kids caught up to speed. One thing that I will propose is a year-round school model to help kids get caught up and close that achievement gap.
all right. So I would say, how we are gonna close the achievement gap. Number one, early education is key. We need to make sure that our kindergarten classrooms and our preschool classrooms are full. It is not mandatory right now to go to kindergarten, and it should be. The other thing that I'm gonna say is, every day, my students come into class. On the lockers is brilliant on. On the classroom door is brilliant on. I speak to them as though they are brilliant on. Half of this battle is helping children understand that they are brilliant and they can do this. And so I think that support for teachers in terms of parents, but just changing the tone of what it is that we believe that our children can achieve makes a world of difference.
So in my opinion, the reason we are where we are is because we have for so long followed a system of competition. Competition when it comes to education, that is not the answer. The way to build a strong school district that is equitable is by working together and learning from each other. It's what we encourage our kids to do, and that's what we need to do as a district. Core academics are extremely important, and it is why we go to school. But we also go to school for social and emotional learning. We go to school to learn how to be a good citizen. And we need our kids at school to make that possible. So we need to support families in helping their kids get to school so that we can help educate them. And I believe strongly that if we work together and we support our teachers and we find the best teachers in the world, like Miss Deb over here, we will surely close the gap.
Thank you, everyone. The next question is regarding group dynamics, and we're gonna start with Director Quattlebaum. Talk about a time when you helped improve collaboration and communication among a group of people with vastly different ideas on how to accomplish something.
Oh, I love this question. Thank you. So I'm going to talk about my work at George Washington High School. And at George Washington High School, there's an international baccalaureate program that was very segregated from the rest of the school. And I recognized that there were some things going on. Everyone was not of like-minded, that program should represent all students. Well, I said, my daughter is part of this program, and there are other students of color that are part of this program, and they deserve access to the program. And so I worked to dismantle a racist system, replace it with something that is equitable for all students. And so now at George Washington High School, through the work of the community, different ideas, we now have one George.
Thanks for the question. In my previous role as a re-engagement specialist for dropout intervention working in Douglas County School District, I had 348 students that were referred to me last school year. I was successful with 78% of re-engaging those students in their learning, but I did not do that work alone. It really took having a collaboration of people show up and be willing to work together to support our students so that they understood that even if they made a decision to leave school, or were in the process of trying to figure out what that next step was gonna look and sound like for them, that the door to education was not closed. Oftentimes, many of these students were being pushed out of their schools by educators who were frustrated because they felt as though they had tried everything. The first step is getting all of the key stakeholders together so that we can have honest, radical conversations and dialogue. From there, we create the policies to support our kids.
Earlier, I mentioned that I am the Director of Human and Civil Rights for the largest union in Colorado, CEA. And that they celebrated their 150th year just 2 days ago. Up until 149 years, they had never had a Department of Human and Civil Rights, which means there were internal policies, structural racism, and a host of other things that had led to this work being spread apart across different people, different staff, different departments. And I was able to lobby different members, different staff. We also have a board, and we are also a board governed by members. I was able to lobby to open the department. So now CEA, celebrating its 150th year, can say that they have a standalone department that elevates LGBTQ students, that does know your rights training, that helps educators of color, and that supports mental health and education.
In my role as a funeral director, I sit down with families at one of the world's life's most difficult moments in planning a celebration of life. One of the things that I've ran across is bringing families together around death, a very hard topic. And one situation I had, one side of the family was very adamant about having the loved one cremated with no form of service. Then the other side of the family, they were insisting on having a traditional style service. So what I did was I sat down and I listened to both sides of the families, and we found common ground. And our solution was simple. We decided to have a viewing and then have the loved one cremated. And I was able to bring the families together to honor both sides. That's the same thing I will bring to the board, is listening to everyone and bringing and finding common ground to find solutions for all.
Ever been to a second grade classroom? I'm serious. I think that one collaboration, I would say, is paramount. Being able to collaborate with teachers on different ways of getting learning through through our schooling is something that I do. Collaboration is my superpower. And so whether I'm working with Black Parent Network, whether I am working with community groups, whether I'm working with literacy groups in my classroom, I use collaboration to problem solve. I believe that iron sharpens iron. We need all ideas at the table. And as a board member, I will ensure that your voice is heard, because you being at the table, the community, is key.
I have had the privilege of working with so many amazing groups of people to help solve really big problems. And the way we do it is we start by this. We sit down and collectively, we figure out, what is the vision? What do we want to accomplish? What is the why? Then from there, once we've realized what this collective vision is, what the why is, then we come together and we decide, how are we going to respect each other as we have this conversation? Once we've set the groundwork for how we're going to respect each other, then we start to have the conversation where we talk about our differences in a respectful way, where we each are able to show our unique perspective. And from there, we come together to think back to that why and how we take each of our points of view and look at it and come up with a collective decision that moves us forward. And sometimes those decisions are not what we personally want, but that is not what we are here to do. We are here to solve the problem that we first put out.
I love this question because it resonates deeply with me. I remember walking into the school, and we were the lowest performing school in the district. I was put in charge of that school. And I also, it was low enrollment, low academics, lack of vision. So what did we do? And then I got the call from the superintendent. The superintendent was saying, you gotta make some changes at the school. So I went over to I went to the staff, stood in front of them, and I tell them the same story. I said, do we make the changes, or does someone else make the changes for us? And we came together and made the changes. Well, we created a unique beacon model where we focused on personalized learning. We were the first school to ever be one-on-one. We focused on character development, and we also provided enrichments throughout for all of our kids, not just for a small group of students. And we did that by defining the values of the community and also the educators that were in the building, because we all agreed to make those changes. And we had to build all that out. That all happened.
Our next question is about school choice. We'll begin with Ms. Jackson. What do you perceive to be the barriers to school choice in Denver Public Schools, and what recommendations do you have to address these barriers?
Thank you so much for that question. When it comes to school choice and barriers within Denver Public Schools, I think one of the biggest challenges is around the accessibility piece. Every year, it seems like there's a new component to school choice, which makes it very difficult for families to understand what are we doing. Case in point, this year, we're doing school choice in December. Historically, it's always been in January. So we need to make sure that, as these decisions continue to roll out, that we are doing our due diligence to make sure that we're keeping everyone informed in what's happening. In addition to that, making sure that I'm good, thank you.
When it comes to school choice, we have to think about the root of that. We have to ensure that every neighborhood has access to a school with resources, with qualified educators, with after-school program, with sports program, specials, and things like that. There's no limit that parents can reach and things they will not do to give their kid any kind of leg up, whether that's driving across town or getting up early to choice in. We have to ensure that we have funding to ensure that kids and parents have access to high-quality schools in their neighborhood.
So I believe in school choice, and every parent should be able to choose the level or high quality education that they deem fit for them. The issue with that is that school choice does create inequities because certain parents don't have the transportation to drive across town to what they deem as a high quality school. So how we fix that is by investing in our local neighborhood schools. The fact that parents are having to choice out of their neighborhood to find high quality education is an issue. So we have to make sure that those programs are within those schools. Career and technical learning, advanced placement, of course, dual enrollment. Many parents are leaving their neighborhood because they are not finding access to those courses that they need. So we have to make sure that we are investing first into our neighborhood schools so parents can find that quality education right in their neighborhood.
So I think I mentioned that I've been part of all schools. My family, we've done all. We've done the innovation, the charter, the private, the traditional. And what I'm gonna say is the barrier with school choice is that first, I believe that parents, we all have a right to send our kids to the school that we believe will serve them best. We have that right. What needs to happen with traditional schools is we need to stop teaching as though we were the same way we taught 30, 60, 100 years. We need to move to a base of innovation, a base of STEM. We need to change how we are seeing schooling in the 21st century. I think that solving that issue will help support public education.
I believe that every family has the right to choose where their child goes to school. And I do believe that the choice system is oftentimes inequitable, and we need to look at that, and we need to find ways to help make it more equitable by making sure that families have the information that they need, and that we try as hard as we can to give them resources to get their kids to the schools that they want to be in. I am a person who has thought outside of the box when it comes to education for a very long time. I built 2 ed tech companies, and it is something I'm extremely proud of. And when you build incredible platforms for people, they will come. So when we invest in our schools and we invest in the future of our schools and the future of our children, it will make our schools desirable, and it will increase the willingness for families to send their kids to our great neighborhood schools. And so I'm really excited to bring my expertise in thinking about the future, thinking about innovation, thinking about technology, and thinking about critical thinking to the classroom and building a more equitable system.
I'm gonna look at this question as a parent. My daughter, she went to school here in sixth grade. And as a parent, you know, you always look out for your kids. And when I saw her coming home struggling because of the things that were going on in the school, I worked with her, I worked with the school, but then we had to make a change. And it was the right change for her. Then I also think about my son. My son proudly played basketball throughout his career, throughout his childhood. He went to Northfield. And for some reason, there was a major misunderstanding of how someone worked over at Northfield. He left and he was able to restart South High School. But that's the point, is that we need to focus on the needs of our kids and have sure that our kids have those choices, parents have those choices. And the other piece is, not all kids are the same. I'm glad things are mentioned about innovation. My school is an innovation school. We brought in enrichment, blended learning, character development, created something unique, and even my son attended school.
So as your board member representing District 4, I'm gonna tell you what a board member does when it comes to school choice. What our role is to look at the system. We have to look at the system. School boundaries have not been addressed in 20 years. In 20 years, we currently have schools that the home's literally right across the street. That school is not that family's home school because that school is not in a boundary. So I am proud to say that I am a co-sponsor of policy that has been drafted by Director Esserman to ensure that Denver Public Schools has a cadence where we are looking at our boundaries. You can't point it into a school that's right across from you if you don't know that it's right across from you.
So the next question is regarding board dynamics, and we're gonna start with Ms. Hunter. The personal values, message delivery, and style of communication are going to inevitably differ among the fellow board directors. What strategies will you use to remain productive in the face of home?
So I've used this whether it's mom, as a former teacher, currently in my role at CEA. Regardless of what someone's viewpoint is, you have to be able to work collaboratively with them because no one board member can pass the resolution. And with the attacks coming, not only to Denver, but Colorado, we've seen them, we've all seen them. We need members on the board who can work regardless of who, is elected. We need people who are willing to build collaborative relationships, have regular check-ins with them, and ensure that you're hearing not only from the community, but your fellow board members. And so my commitment is to whoever is elected to work alongside with them to ensure that we are working together to improve the lives of students.
This current board has spent thousands on censorships and infighting among board members. We have to make sure that we are focusing on student outcomes. Again, we have to focus on student outcomes. We have to put aside adult ideology and political games and make sure again that we are focusing on student outcomes. If we are all focusing on student outcome, I believe that any one of us that are elected to the board, as long as we're focusing on, again, student outcomes, we'll be just fine. So my approach will be always to make sure every conversation is rooted in student outcomes.
So I think I mentioned that my superpower is collaboration because I collaborate with secondary groups every day. I'm gonna say that
Number one, building relationship is key to any board, to any entity that is trying to make a change. You must build relationship. I'm a relationship builder. Collaboration, as you've heard, is going to be key as well. But the other thing that's very important is listening. One of the things I don't like to do is you have 2 ears and 1 mouth. So, as a board member, I'm gonna do a lot of listening. I don't know everything. I can learn more. And so I think that that is going to be key. And then again, remembering our focus. Our goal is optimal learning for every child. With that goal in mind, and listening, collaboration, and building relationships, I think we could get some things done. Thank you.
I believe in listening as well. I think it's the key, but before you can listen, you must be curious. You must be curious to understand what another person is thinking, feeling, and trying to understand their perspective. And so I try to look at everything with my curiosity hat on. And then to really be a deep listener and to ask really thoughtful questions to try to help me understand further. Because I believe when we truly think about understanding and hearing and showing up the way you want to be in the world, I believe in that so deeply, being the change that you wish to see. Being that person that shows up and cares about people the way you want people to care about you. That is how you collaborate. That is how you build relationships. And that is how you is by being the example that you want to see in others. And so every day I just try to show up as my best self, and I will continue to do that.
Thank you for the question. One is just starting with one-on-one conversations, finding out what the values, what's important to each individual. I'll tell you what my values are. It's about family and teamwork. It's about innovation. It's about resilience. That's how I got here. But I also want to know what the values of all the board members, then find common values. Once that's established, set norms. How are we going to work together? And the other thing is set clear goals. We do not have clear goals that we're striving for. And that's causing some of the frustration. And if you can define the values and you can call that out, that avoids a lot of the conflict, and that's some of the work that that I've done. We need to, as board members, my responsibility is to the community, not to be best buddies with the board, it's to the community. But I'm going to work with the board members to ensure that we are creating policies in the best interest of our kids. I'm not here to necessarily pick sides. I'm here to just move DPS forward like this person.
Serving on the board, you do not always agree with policies that are passed. When I first was elected to the board, there was a policy that was passed. I voted no on it. Because what that policy would have done, well, when it passed, what would have happened is different grade school would have been closed. That's a pretty big difference of opinion with my board colleagues. And so what I did is I went to my colleagues with the information on impact of closing this school because of the decision that we're making as a board. And a buy to pass or a policy that would close a school in District 4. I flipped that to a buy to vote to keep different grade school open. So I know I work with my colleagues because I've done it and it saves schools.
When we talk about, getting along, it really comes down to setting norms and expectations of how you're going to show up as the best version of ourselves to do this work for our kids. It's not afraid to take a break, because there are going to inevitably be times when our passion for this work shines through. And we need to be able to make sure that we don't lose our North Star, which is making sure that we're keeping kids at the center of every decision. I know that this district has so much potential. Our kids are watching every single thing that we're doing. You all are watching every single thing that we're doing. We have to make sure that we are setting the model for our kids, because this is what we instill in the classrooms day in and day out. So as a board member, having those tough conversations, but doing so in a way that is respectful of one another is super critical in my commitment to you guys to end the infighting.
Thank you. Our last question in this section is about the budget. We'll begin with Mr. Harris. Given the expected federal and state budget cuts, what are your top 3 spending priorities?
Yeah, so first off, the DPS is very top heavy. So I would look to issue an audit to see where is money going that is not directly affecting classroom. So I want to start looking at maybe having cuts to some of the top administration in central office. Funding has to go first to our classrooms and to our teachers to make sure that our teachers are being compensated way more than what they are currently being paid. Secondly, I would want to look at making sure we have monies there for upgrades on our current curriculum. As we talked about the achievement gap earlier, we need to make sure that we have curriculum in reading that is geared around the science of reading. Secondly, we need to make sure that we have funding in our schools for our safety team and mental health specialists around discipline, interventionists, safety, mental health resources as well with those dollars.
So this question is what are your top 3 spending priorities? Is this on? Can you hear me? It's better. Okay, great. Top 3 spending priorities from.
Put on.
Now. You want me to pass that?
Yeah.
So, my top, we do realize that the cuts are coming. There are cuts all the time, and I'm about to get deeper and deeper, but the top 3 spending priorities, I want to look at standardized testing. I want to save money with standardized testing. I want to save money with the waste of curriculum. I want to put money into safety. Safety is the top priority, which means that we have to support our teachers in the classroom. It means that we have to have training and the necessary training to support the students that are coming to our schools. I want to put funding into making sure that we have collaborative and positive relationships, not only with community, but with parents. So when I am looking at this question, I am looking at it from a lens of how we can pull all of our resources together. The other thing that we need to look at, we need to educate ourselves on paper and how that money can come into classrooms.
So the things that are most important to me are first and foremost safety. We cannot take any cuts on safety whatsoever. Secondly, we need to make sure that we are continuing to have resources for our most vulnerable kids, and our kids need extra support. Those are resources that we need to continue to invest in our school. We also really need to seriously look at how we are investing in our English learners. That is something that is actually going to be affected by the federal cuts, and we have to be protecting those communities. It is extremely important. I will fight very, very hard to use my voice to go to legislators and to talk about ways that we can ensure that we are keeping the funding in our schools. That is probably one of the most valuable ways I can use my voice, is by being a lobbyist to do the right things for our public schools.
The number 1 priority is what are the student-facing resources? And how we prioritize that. That means resources for our teachers taking care of our workforce, ensuring our students have the classroom. That's the number one priority. The other piece is focusing on providing that training where students are excelling not only academically, but they're also excelling emotionally. The second part is how do we maintain culture and safe culture? And when we're talking about that, the physical safety, but I'm also gonna add on the mental health support that need to be. Finally, we've known about this for 10 years. As a principal that has balanced multi-million dollar budgets throughout, I've always adjusted. Most recently this year, but due to some adjustment, I had to make a major adjustment. We were able to make limited cuts to start planning ahead. So we're we prioritize what are we doing for the next year.
So let me be clear. I am absolutely not afraid of this Trump administration and the attacks that are being launched against our children and the funding of public education. We were the first in the nation to sue Donald Trump, this administration, to ensure that our children were safe. Spending priorities, get into my spending priorities and their current ones. Wages of all of our educators. We need to make sure that all of our educators, whether you're a teacher or an hourly worker, that you are being compensated. We must continue to invest in mental health. That includes looking at how we are staffing our schools. And then finally, making sure that there are wraparound services so that when we are dealing, for example, with dyslexia students, that our families know how to help their student at home.
When we look at the federal budget, you all know that earlier this year, there was a possibility that DPS was going to be made cut. However, we're fine. There's no guarantee that this is not going to be something on the table next year. And so we do definitely need to start having some conversation on a state level around what does a transformation of paper look like so that we can fund our schools appropriately. At one point in time, DPS was like number 48 in the country for how we fund our schools, and that's unacceptable. Furthermore, if we are going to continue to attract and maintain high-quality educators, we have to make sure that we're paying these people livable wages, and I love livable, but making sure we're able to take care of them. They are the ones who are showing up day in and day out to support our kids. And last but not least, investing in out-of-school time opportunities for our kids and pathways for GED, education, diploma, college, trade school, whatever it is you want to do. We're going to invest in that so that you have a future that you wish to have.
Yeah. Think about going last, everyone usually says points. I would say that mental health safety is a priority of mine. You can't have conversations on safety without truly investing in mental health. That includes proper staffing and also ensuring that class sizes don't need the maximum amount allowed by the Denver Classroom Teachers Association collective bargaining agreement. We also have to ensure that everyone has an affordable cost of living. If you teach in Denver, if you drive school buses in Denver, you should be able to live in the city that you teach in. And so that is very important, ensuring that salaries are competitive. And finally, I would say literacy and math intervention. Oftentimes those are the first positions unfortunately cut when cuts come and buildings have to rent someone. We need to ensure that every school has access to literacy and math.
The next portion of the forum is going to be hand raise.
There are 6 questions, and the first one is both statements. The first one is raise your hand if you have ever been a classroom teacher. Raise your hand if you agree with the decision to carry out the superintendent's evaluation early. Raise your hand if you agree that the Central Park Area Elementary School enrollment zone should remain in effect. Raise your hand if you will support maintaining the innovation school status of elementary schools within Central Park. Given the current unclear restrictions around diversity, equality, and inclusion, raise your hand if you will support teachers and school leaders to try to meet the needs of the diverse student population. Last question, raise your hand if you agree that the school board should be engaged with the community, body, and other entities to address the school student traffic safety issue. Thanks for your participation, and this concludes the lightning round.
Thank you, Hannah. And next we will move into the closing statements. So each candidate has 1 minute to make the closing statement. We will start with Ms. Sims Park and move to the right. Both tables have a mic now. Thank you. Okay. Thank you for this forum. Appreciate having a chance to share. There is a greeting that from the sky say when they address you. And the greeting is, how are you? How are you? If we ask ourselves right now, how are the children? If your answer comes back that our children are not okay, that means that we need to stop doing things differently and do some different things. We have tried all these on the board. We have tried business, we have tried lawyer, we've tried all these. And today, I'm asking you to try a teacher voice. To try the voice of someone in a classroom every day, who works with families every day, who works with children every day. All of them. It is, thank you.
Thank you all very much for having me here tonight. I am a proud educator. I have worked one-on-one with some of the most vulnerable kids in our district, and I have supported them and their families. I have led organizations in building out innovative technology to actually lead our kids to the future. I've done that hard work, and I've been successful at it. And most importantly, I am the mom of 2 current DPS students, one who just started ECE. So I am just so proud to be part of this district, to be starting this journey with him, and to be, I don't know, a 9-year-old, you can do the math on where we are on that journey. But I am so proud to be here. And I know that all these skill sets that I have from all these different facets of my life will lead me to be an incredible leader on the board, because I truly understand what it means to be an educator, to be a leader in technology, and to be a mom. Thanks.
Thank you for being here. It's greatly appreciated. As a Central Park resident, I can understand why you're here, why how important education is. For the past 25 years, I've been a teacher and an assistant principal. And I'm completely committed to making sure that we are putting our kids first. I've shown, have a proven track record of actually creating positive changes for our school. And I also am proud to say that I'm a Latino and I have served. I've always come back to serve in our schools, because that's 60% of our population of kids. And that's how committed I am to putting Finally, this is what I believe in. I believe that every school deserves a safe, welcoming environment where kids thrive and we're getting them future ready. I also believe that educators should be compensated at their properly. And then the third thing is that schools should be funded to serve the kids in that school. Thank you.
Thank you for having me, excuse me, this evening. And I just want to say that we're in unprecedented times right now, and in spite of that, we're making grounds. We're making headway in different public schools. Our educators are doing an amazing job, and our students are stepping up to the challenge. I'm running again because the work isn't done. I want to continue to advocate and to fight alongside my community. We got into this 4 years ago, and we still have work to do. We still need to make sure that our schools are staffed properly when it comes to mental health support. We still need to make sure that the minimum wage in different public schools is $27 an hour. And we need to make sure that our growth and achievement gains are in the double digits. We're on the way. And I, again, ask for your support and your vote on November 4th.
You could have been anywhere tonight, but y'all chose to show up here, and so thank you so much. It speaks volumes into your commitment to education. I honestly would not be sitting here tonight if it wasn't for a middle school teacher who saw something in me, and that something was potential. She saw the potential in me before I was able to see it in myself. I have spent my entire career uplifting and providing that service to others, to our students. Making sure that every student knows that when they talk to Ms. Jackson, that she's gonna hold them to high expectation, but is gonna do so here. Our kids can no longer deserve to wait and see what's coming. We need a strong board that's gonna work alongside each and every one of you in this community to make sure that our kids are at the center of every decision and they get what they deserve.
Thank you all for your time this evening. As you can see, it is a crowded election, but I want you to know that you can trust me. I've been a classroom educator in District 4. I currently have kids all across District 4. And I currently work for 40,000 educators, providing mental health services and ensuring that our educators of color feel safe in their union. Someone who serves on the PTO and as well on the CSC at a different school, I am committed to being a voice of parents and uplifting you all's voice. I am committed to ending the dysfunction and to be a voice of reason on the board. Thank you, and I'd appreciate your support.
Thank you all for being here tonight. As a proud Central Park resident, this means a lot to me to see you all show up and have a great conversation and listen to us around education. I want to ask for your support this November to help me get to the Denver Public School Board. I can promise you that I am going to fight for early literacy for our kids, make sure that our classrooms and our schools are safe, and make sure that every child is prepared not just to graduate from our district, but they are prepared with real life readiness skills to be successful in life. If they decide to go to a four-year university or take the technical route, I want to make sure that all kids are well prepared. And not only that, but to hold this superintendent accountable. In order for us to get the work done, we must hold our superintendent accountable and look at rewriting our ends policies. I'll be honored to have your support this November. Vote Harris.
Let's thank all of our candidates. Thank you to all of you. Yeah. for being here and on Zoom. Appreciate you showing up. This concludes the formal part of the forum. Candidates are invited to stick around, chat with folks if they want to. But yeah, thank you all.
Sorry, I was like,